Hello, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I'm Larry Rhodes.
And I'm Faithless Forrest, and we want you to know that if you don't believe in God, you're not alone. Right here in East Tennessee, you can find free-thinking atheists and agnostics. This is a show for them and people curious about living a life free of supernatural beliefs. This is a call-in show. However, we have only one phone line, so if you can't get through, we invite you to email in questions to us live at freethoughtforum@yahoo.com, and with luck, Larry and I will remember to check the email during the program.
So that's live email. If you can shoot it to us, we'll try to get to it on the air. The Atheist Society of Knoxville is a fun meetup group that often meets at a bar or eatery, yes, in Knoxville. Tonight's meetup after the show is at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria in the Old City for happy hour, for food, drink, and conversation. Also on Fridays, we usually get together at Agave Azul in Bearden. Look for the silver-jacketed copy of The God Delusion standing upright on the table to find us. Everyone is welcome to visit for happy hour or for conversation, but if you plan to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't.
Okay, well, the monthly activities of the Rationalists of East Tennessee are as follows. On the first and third Sunday mornings, there are usually lectures and lively roundtable discussion. The second Sunday of the month is book club. March's book is Muzzled, The Assault on Honest Debate. The fourth Sunday is a reflections gathering. It's like a potluck meal or snacks, usually at a member's home.
Visit our websites for additional monthly program details, including times and locations. But first, on to the news.
All right. What should we talk about first? The program at UT tonight?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. This evening at the University of Tennessee in the Cox Auditorium Alumni Memorial Building is a David L. Dugan Memorial Lecture. This is the second lecture. The visiting lecturer is Jeff Charlotte, and the topic is, or subject is, the noise of democracy, faith, faithlessness, and the country in between. Jeff has done some of the most important writing research on U.S. religion and politics in the past few years. His work, particularly on the family, is cited by scholars as well as people in the journalism world. So not only does he have high visibility, appearing on several talk shows and in leading publications, but his work bridges academic and community interests. His latest book, Sweet Heaven When I Die, Faith, Faithlessness, and the Country in Between, is being well received. So notice it mentions the family. I wonder if he means the political lobbying family group up in Washington.
Could be.
I know I've heard an interview on NPR with someone writing about the family. Perhaps it was Jeff. All right.
Okay, also in the news, Lenore City High School refuses to publish an atheist student editorial. Crystal Myers is an honor student, captain of the swims team, and editor of her high school newspaper. This article by the Digital Cuttlefish goes on to say that she's also an atheist in a predominantly Christian student body. In a recent editorial that Myers, 18, intended for the Lenore City High School newspaper entitled No Rights, The Life of an Atheist, she questioned her treatment by the majority. Now that Lenore City High School administrators have refused its publication, the whole world can read it by following the link here.
Right.
I made it a tiny URL so you could type it in easily or write it down easily. It reads to me like a fairly typical high school student editorial pointing out things that the school is doing that need improvement, except that this time two things are different. Now this is not me speaking, it's the writer of this article. The writer is an atheist, and the things that need improvement happen to be constitutional violations. The school is refusing to publish a letter because it would cause disruption in school. And of course they are right. As we've seen in Cranston, reminding a Christian majority that their privileged actions are unconstitutional cannot be expected to result in a simple, "my bad, I'll change." Comment on the Knoxville News Sentinel stories are already a bit of a whirlwind, and as I write, some calmer voices are showing up. But we have already had the litany of prominent atheists, classic example, Jeffrey Dahmer, which he's not, brought up to show how all atheists are evil. But now the school has some decisions to make. After Cranston and elsewhere, they cannot be ignorant of their policies and practices. Let us hope for their sake that they change before they are forced to spend a lot of money on lawyers. Crystal Myers seems to be a bright, motivated, and as Cranston found out, can be a particular force of nature, also courageous. You have some of her actual article that you'd like to read?
Sure, great. Yeah, it's a couple pages long, but maybe we could hit a few high points or common points. The second paragraph begins like this. I just want to clear up some misconceptions about atheism. No, we do not worship the devil. We do not believe in God, and so we do not believe in Satan. And we may be godless, but that does not mean that we are without morals. I know, personally, I strive to be the best person I can be, even without religion. In fact, I've been a better person since I have rejected religion. And perhaps the most important misconception is that we want to convert everyone into atheism and that we hate Christians. For the most part, we just want to be respected for who we are and not judged. Now, we have to comment, here on this show, we've had callers call in and ask us if we worship the devil. Truthfully, viewers, when we hear that question, we think it's absurd.
Kind of have to laugh. The devil is part of the Christian panoply of supernatural beings. Why would we buy into one particular supernatural being out of the lot? We don't care about any of them. They're supernatural to us. They do not exist.
Yeah, it seems to represent a lack of imagination about the larger world of possible beliefs. When someone thinks if you don't believe in Jehovah or Yahweh, well then you must be a worshiper of Satan. What we're saying,
must be on the other side.
What we're saying with the word atheist is the answer to one question, and that question is,
do you believe in God?
And if you can't say you believe in God, then you are an atheist.
Notice it doesn't say anything about, do you know that God exists or not? If you say, I don't know, then you're talking about agnosticism, not atheism. Atheism is about belief.
But if you don't know and you don't believe in one, you would be an
agnostic atheist.
There we go.
There you go.
All right. Well, I think, goodness, what is it, about the fourth, fifth paragraph here, she talks about prayers going on in the school environment. She writes, public prayer also occurs at all of the home football games using the public address system. This has, again, been covered by the Supreme Court case Santa Fe Independent School District versus Doe. The court ruled that school-sponsored prayer is an unconstitutional violation of the Establishment Clause. So let's talk about the fact that, if you're using the public PA system, you've got, how should we say, a monopoly of the conversation. And you are being led by, let's see, what is it, a government employee, most likely. So if you think about this prayer in public schools, what it really is that people who are promoting it are really wanting to have the government lead people in prayer.
Right.
That is so obviously against what the intent of the First Amendment is. And
because it's not even just a generic prayer, it's a sectarian prayer for Jesus Christ in a particular religion and religious section at that.
And that would often, she mentioned specifically that most of them were in Jesus' name we pray and so on. But whether it was in Jesus' name or in Allah's name or in the Flying Spaghetti Monster's name, the government has no business leading its citizens in prayer.
And the fastest growing religion in America today is Islam. So can you imagine 20 years from now that the Islamic lobby would want to try to get your student to pray to Allah and worship Muhammad with the power of the government? This is the problem. Public prayer, the way she's using it here, it does not mean a person standing on the corner in a public place praying to God. That's not what she means.
Or a student praying to themselves. The problem is when you have this forum where everyone is expected to be silent while one person prays.
And it's enforced by the government, in this case the school.
All right, well, we covered some of those high points.
Okay, did you have another article that you wanted to
Oh,
get?
yeah, that's right. One more thing in the news. Internationally, in Italy, the government there plans to tax the Vatican on its commercial property. Amazingly, the Vatican owns about 20% of Italy's property, and all of that has been tax-free. So the plan is that for things that have commercial use, that they will now have to start paying taxes and not being a freeloader on the rest of society. We think that's a nice trend.
They would start that here.
Yep.
Okay, this is the start of the regular program after the news portion. If you have a DVR or a VCR, you might want to reach over and hit record, because we're going to be hitting very many web-based resources for atheist and free thought information and resources. Later you can go back then, replay this, hit pause, write them down, go to them, look at them, listen a little more detail. At the very least, before we go on, you might want to grab a pen and paper before we start reading them off.
All right. Well, I guess if we jump right in here, the first thing you've got listed is the Center for Inquiry. Their mission is to foster a secular-based society on science, reason, freedom of inquiry, and humanist values. I know that they were trying to get public billboards here in Knoxville, and they were polite enough to ask the local Freethought groups if we objected. I think they wanted to make sure that they didn't bring any hellfire down on us that we weren't prepared for or willing to be a part of. But unfortunately, we could not get any of the advertising sign companies to grant us a space here in Knoxville.
That is their...
So our speech apparently can be suppressed.
It can be. They are privately owned companies, like the school, Lenore City High School. The paper is a privately owned paper. They have the decision. They can print it or not print it. It's up to them. Like the University of Tennessee has the Daily Beacon. That's a commercially owned venture. It has nothing to do with the university. But if somebody wanted to try to print an article in there and they wouldn't print it, that's their business. So they can say no. And that's what happened to the Freethinkers when they tried to get some billboard space here in Knoxville. The companies just wouldn't do it.
Well, Larry, we've got a call. Why don't you push the button and greet them?
Okay, welcome to Free Thought Forum. May we have a name and nickname?
Hello, caller.
Oh, hey.
Great. Give us a name or a nickname, please, and a short question or comment.
Yeah, this is Jeff, and I enjoyed the program. I caught you guys last week, and just find you know this interesting. I'm a Christian, and I don't feel like that makes me. In fact, I'm certain that I've lived my life no better than anyone, and probably much less good as many people. And I have to acknowledge that the church, I feel, has done a very poor job of representing Jesus and how he lived and how he told us to live. And I don't think this applies to all congregations or all denominations, but it just as an observation, it seems like the church in America has done more buildings and setting up programs rather than doing basically what Jesus did when he was on the earth, and that's just feeding and clothing and helping the poor. And I'm also fairly certain that church ends up being probably the last place a lot of people would come for help, because they wouldn't feel like they fit in, or it's just not it turns out to be, I think, something that would have a negative type of connotation for people that might benefit from it.
Right. I think that more and more they're being run like businesses, more for the income that they can supply to the people in the business than for the actual good that they're doing to society. The problem I have with churches is when they get away from, like you do, when they get away from helping people and trying to serve their community to just pushing dogma and trying to make people live by the dogma.
I would, and sadly, I mean, I would agree, and I'm not even including the nuts that are on TV, you know, campaigning for money. That's just almost comedy. But with all that said, here's where I guess where we would disagree. Everything that Jesus said and did makes absolute sense.
No,
Blueprint.
I disagree.
Let's have a Socratic
when he said,
here.
now, when I say it makes sense, I'm just saying as a blueprint for a great way to live, turning the other cheek. I don't follow everything he said, but Jesus makes absolute sense to me. When somebody asked for help, he helped. And now, I think where we're at is I can't really prove that Jesus is not a fairy tale, but I don't think you can prove that Jesus is a fairy tale. I mean, at the end of the day, where I'm at is based strictly on faith. But one thing, because I listened to your program last week, and it was thought-provoking, but one thing that, and this is a silly tack to probably even take, one thing that seems to illustrate that the Bible has some historical merit is the nation of Israel. The prophecies regarding the Jewish people, it would either be the most stunning, coincidental set of things and occurrences that would have ever happened, or everything that's prophesied about Israel is kind of dead on. It just seems to me to give some historical merit that the Jewish people have been scattered and put together, and now occupy where they occupy. No other group of people have ever existed on the planet with those circumstances. No other group of people. It would almost equate to the entire United States despising the state of South Carolina and doing everything they could to make South Carolina cease to exist.
May we address this?
Please do.
Okay. Would you like to go first?
Well, I wrote a question a little bit earlier. You got into some other interesting things, but you talked about, you know, the good words of Jesus, and I guess I want to ask the question: Does doing good have to come from a supernatural source? You know, because of, you know, if we can pick out of the words of Jesus in the Bible some excellent ideas, but does that have to come from a supernatural source?
Also,
please answer, Jeff.
No, it absolutely believing in Jesus or not believing in Jesus does not automatically make you more moral, more good, more inclined to help. But I think the life that he led and the things he said make perfect sense.
okay. Now, if I may, Jesus said some things that don't make a whole lot of sense, like leave all of your possessions and follow him. If you did that, you would end up like living on the street. You would have no possessions. Do you think that's a good idea?
You know, and now this is crazy. Jesus is so upside down. The strength of his message is in the craziness of it. When he said you had to be small, if I believe that Jesus existed and he was the Son of God, here's someone that could have snapped a finger under my faith system and had anything, done anything, and he was the most restrained person that ever walked on the planet. So I know what you're saying, and it makes no sense. And that's the strength of it. I mean, the strength, if Jesus is who he is, what he said he was, this is someone that helped create the universe, and in its vastness, it would make no sense that I would matter to him.
Okay.
I'm less than an ant.
What I'm hearing you say is it makes perfect sense, and then you turn around and says it makes no sense, but then that's why it makes it's such strength.
Isn't he upside down? I mean, isn't that upside down?
Well, that's the position of the church. I mean, they give you all these things, and then they turn around and say it's absolutely against what you would believe, but you need to believe it anyway. And I'm not down with that. Let me put it that way. Yeah. Now, also, let me mention the prophecies that you're talking about. The people who wrote the New Testament had the Old Testament. they could write the prophecies to be fulfilled in the New Testament any way they wanted to. I mean, that was a previous book. They're writing a new book. They can write it any way they want.
No, I understand.
Now, also the prophecy about the Jewish people. The Jews have been persecuted throughout the last 2,000 years because of what was written in the Bible. I mean, Hitler himself said that he was persecuting the Jews in doing God's work because of what they did theoretically to Christ. Now, also part of it is a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that the Jews, according to the Bible, knew where they were supposed to settle. Well, guess where they picked to settle? You know, it's not like they had the whole world to go to.
And by that you mean the reestablishment of the State of Israel in 1947.
Which is what I assume he was talking about.
Yeah.
That's right.
So,
Okay.
in other words, you know, the fact that there's a book saying that in a sense says, oh, well, this land is yours, go there, and that a bunch of people try to do that, that doesn't mean that the book was ever inspired. It just means that people are inspired by the book. There's a difference there.
And listen, I respect where you guys are at. And that's, I mean, it's a faith thing on your all side that all of this is a fairy tale. It's a faith thing on my side that it is not a fairy tale. And you know, and I don't want to sound like I'm betting everything, because if I'm right, I'm going to heaven. I almost wish it was part of the equation. I wish it was the current thing, but I understand where anybody without the faith of in Jesus would be where they're at. I guess at times, and I'm sure you're going to feel the same way on the different side of the coin. At times, I read the young lady's article Sunday, and I was rooting for her. I'm always for the underdog. But at times, it seems like there is it's okay to believe what you want to believe, but you know, I guess don't bash the people. You know, if somebody wants to pray at a football game, who cares?
We don't have a problem with praying at the football game.
We'd like to go over that again.
We have a problem with the state getting involved by leading it to, you know, an official person getting up there and leading the entire crowd in a sectarian prayer. That's what we have a problem with.
Yeah. So do you understand that you know, individuals praying is just fine. It's when the state tells you when, and the state leads the prayer.
Because right now it's Protestants in the South, but it could change. Do you want it to change? You want to have the state to come and tell you tomorrow that you need to pray to Muhammad?
Well, see, the thing is, I root for some of the same stuff you guys root for, because I really like the underdog. I do feel, and bottom line, praying at a football game, that strikes me as kind of not a great thing for a different reason. Jesus said, when you pray, go pray in your closet. You know, let's not make a big spectacle out of it. But I guess I'm just saying, you know, it would be cool if people of faith could sit with people like yourselves that don't have faith, and you just talk, and really not to change anybody's mind. You guys are convinced you've got the answers, and other folks are convinced they've got the answers, and a lot of folks like me that don't feel like we got the answers, but I do feel my faith is that it is real. But anyway, hey, listen, I appreciate your program, appreciate the forum, and I find it very interesting.
Great.
Jeff, thanks much.
Thanks for calling.
And it was a pleasure talking to you. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. And Jeff, also, if you want to, you can come down to the Old City after the show, and we'd be more than happy to talk to you. We don't like to be preached or proselytized to, but if you want to discuss these things, you're more than happy to come down, and we'd be happy to talk to you.
All right, great.
Moving on to the next slide. We have a lot of slides coming here. Richarddawkinsdotnet. The mission of the Richard Dawkins Foundation is to support scientific education, critical thinking, and evidence-based understanding of the natural world in the quest to overcome religious fundamentalism. Now, to me, one thing that's not usually mentioned about Richarddawkinsdotnet is he is a clearinghouse for local organizations, atheist organizations throughout the world. If you live in a city that you don't know if they have an atheist organization, go to Richarddawkinsdotnet and look up your city, state, and zip. And chances are you'll find one.
Is it this foundation that is sort of sponsoring that coming out initiative, and
Yes.
as well as the bus posters?
They do both of those things.
Yeah. There in the United Kingdom, they had these posters on the sides of their buses saying something to the effect of, relax, there probably is no God.
So there's probably no God, so relax and enjoy your life.
Relax and enjoy your life. Yeah,
Right.
don't worry about that original sin thing.
Right. You
All
want
right.
to take Freedom from Religion Foundation?
The Freedom from Religion Foundation. They're one of the largest organizers of freethinkers in America. They work tirelessly to keep the wall of separation between church and state intact. Dan Barker and his wife Annie Laurie Gaylor are the current co-presidents. Dan is an ex-preacher turned atheist who still receives money from the royalties of the Christian musicals he wrote while he was still a preacher.
Right.
He's also written created a couple of albums of atheist music. I have a couple of his. I very much like Beware of Dogma and the about 13-minute long program on Noah's Ark.
He's a very talented person musically. Put all the, as you'll see at the top of the screen on these web sources, I'm going to put the website address up there so you can jot those down if you like to. The next we come to is American Atheists. Since 1963, American atheists have been organizing, laboring, and working for civil liberties of the atheists and the total absolute separation of this government and religion. This was a group started by Madalyn Murray O'Hair.
Yes.
Not the most popular person in America at the time, but without her, the atheist organizations in America and around the world may not have been as far along as they are.
She's a foundation stone in the 20th century atheism. The summary she wrote to the Supreme Court for their case, trying to get prayer stopped in her son's school, is very good reading. It begins, your petitioners are atheists. We do not believe in a God. So right then she was finding that she had to do the same thing that even Crystal Myers was doing, explaining what atheism is, because of the pervasive misunderstanding or perhaps even deliberate non-understanding.
Yeah.
All right.
Moving on to Atheist Experience, if we can put that one up. You hear us all the time talking about Matt Dillahunty. That's him. Go to the Atheist Experience. There's a hyphen in the name up there at the top. They have over 10 years of shows like this on the web that you can download and view at your leisure. Each of the earlier shows started, or call-in shows like ours, they still are, but they were like an hour and a half. So there's many, many, many hours of free thought resources in this particular location. And he is one of my personal heroes, and that I don't know of anybody who can carry the argument for atheism quite as well as he does.
All right. Yeah, I've watched many of their shows. There are several other people there, biologists and scientists who come on. All right, Larry, our second call is in here.
Okay. You want to take?
Hello, thank you for calling Freethought Forum. Please listen to us on the telephone. Give us your name or a nickname and a short question or comment.
Hello?
Hello, caller.
How you doing?
Hello. Just fine. Please give us a name or a nickname so that we know how to address you.
You call me John.
John.
Do you have a comment or question?
Yeah, I would like to know, deeply about this situation here, because I kind of caught myself, man, when I was younger, not believing this stuff and being forced to go, to this church or forced to do this or whatever. When I came of age, I tried another religion, right?
Okay.
And nothing works, man. So, basically, if you don't believe one way, you're going to believe the other way.
No, that's a false dichotomy.
Yeah, it depends. What do you mean by you don't believe one way, believe the other way?
If you don't believe in God, you believe in Satan.
No.
Well, but what about Zeus?
Yeah, Satan is another supernatural creature that's in the Christian pantheon of supernatural beings.
Yeah.
So it's basically all just made up fairy tale, right?
Well,
it came from myth, yes.
And what about Zeus? So that's not just the opposite. What about
Ra.
Zeus?
I couldn't hear the first question.
What is your opinion on Zeus? You know Zeus. He threw thunderbolts off of Mount Olympus.
Or Thor, or Jupiter, or Pluto.
What is my theory on the planets?
Well,
The gods, the planets were named after gods.
Yeah. So what's your theory on Zeus? You know, you said there was one or the other, but you know, Zeus is a third. What's your theory on Zeus?
I believe, man, it's just more out there. You know, we stuck on Earth. I believe it's more out there. I can't get as vast as y'all was about these planets, and they was named after. You say the planets was named after God.
Yes, ancient Greek gods.
The Greeks and the Romans.
And Romans gods.
Yes. Have these guys ever appeared to anybody, anything like that? Do they got any facts on it?
As much as Yahweh did. In other words, we have written stories where they did, yes, appear to people, but we don't believe they even existed any more than we believe that your God existed. Therefore, he couldn't have appeared to anybody.
Yeah.
It's understandable right there. And like I was doing some reading on Constantine, right? Constantine basically created the Holy Spirit.
Well, during Constantine's reign, the Roman Empire kind of was drug into Christianity, and he convened a council that began the canonizing of the book. By canon, meaning putting together the book that the collection of writings that became the modern Christian Bible. I'm told that that's a process that still evolved for some time, but he began that process.
So basically just forcing a religion through.
Well, after Rome did adopt Christianity, yes, whenever they took over a new land or expanded in a new territory, yes, they forced Christianity onto the population of that new area. That's what happened to the pagans.
Somebody that listens to me, everybody say, man, you ain't supposed to talk that well with them. And since I've been a youth, I'm 39 now, since I've been a youth, I've actually just wondered, all the religions, they had to be forced on people.
I'm sure many of them were. Some people go to them. I mean, there are people converting from Christianity to Islam right now in America. They're not being forced to. They just find it attractive. But that doesn't mean that they have really good reasons to do it. They just want to do it. I mean, a lot of people are like that. But a lot of times Christianity was forced at the edge of a sword.
Like, I mean, that's just something like that you know and I know. So how do you get past the point, like, okay, say when you pass, there's nothing else, that's it?
Well, you mean after you die?
After you die, that's it?
That's what we believe, yes.
Yeah.
There's no reward for being good. I mean, there's no need for it.
Well, whether there's a need for it or not doesn't make it come into existence. You know, you can't say that if you fall down on your bicycle and skin your knee, that's bad and that therefore gravity doesn't exist. Gravity exists and you just got to deal with it. And if when our body fails us, our mind will cease to exist because our mind is just the chemical and electrical sum of what's going on inside our brain, well, that's unfortunate, but just like gravity making our knees bleed, it happens.
Yeah, we just need to face up to the truth of the fact that when we die, our brains die. And when the brains die, our mind no longer has a physical basis to exist. Our intelligence basically dissipates with the energies in our body.
Being dead will be just like what the world was like before you were born. You know, do you remember 1900?
Not at all.
Yeah.
And so when we cease to exist, that's what it'll be like again. We don't know. It's gone.
Mark Twain said that I didn't exist for billions of years before I was born, and it didn't discomfort me at all. So he's saying after you die, it's not going to be that big a deal. It's just the way you die could be a problem.
Yeah.
So it's no fun at all in that.
Yeah.
Well, John, can we ask, have you watched us before, or how did you find us?
My first time catching it, you know, and I was like, I can't believe this on TV because, you know, if I say anything like this around a female or any kind of relative, man, you know, it's taboo, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thanks for the call. We're here every Tuesday.
And you're local. You're watching on television or?
Yeah, I caught you on television.
We might as well do the program break
Great.
and tell them about our organizations.
Sure enough.
If you'd like to do that.
Well, why don't we clear the line
Okay.
so that we can get someone else call in. John, thanks much. We'll wish you a good afternoon.
And keep watching. We'll be on for another half hour.
All right. Okay.
In case you're just tuning in, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. Freethought Forum is funded jointly by them and individual contribution. Shows are live every Tuesday from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock on Community Access TV. You can also see this program streaming live. For fans outside of the Knoxville area, go to ctvknox.org.
You can send us feedback at the email address on your screen, freethoughtforum@yahoo.com. I haven't checked the email anytime yet. Why don't you try and check?
Okay.
But don't wait. This is a call-in show, and we're live today, February 28th, 2012. And viewers can call in now on the number on your screen down there in front of us. All right. The Atheist Society of Knoxville, or ASK, meets several times during the week. We have evening meetups for food, fun, and drink. ASK's purpose is to supply a venue for community camaraderie and outreach to atheists, agnostics, freethinkers, and other like-minded persons in the East Tennessee area. No? Well, come on, people out there, send us some email. Visit the ASK website on the screen to learn more about us. Now, do you want to talk about the Rationalists, or I keep going?
Go ahead.
The Rationalists of East Tennessee has Sunday activities involving lively presentations, discussions, and of both timely and immemorial. Topical and timeless. There we go. Such as the influence of money in politics. Was Jesus a real person? The history of life. And the four horsemen of atheism. Once a month we get together for book club. Future books include Muzzled, The Assault on Honest Debate, The Fair Society, The Invisible Gorilla. You need not to have read the books to attend, but of course it helps. You can go to rationalist.org to find our calendar and directions to our events.
Both the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee help provide a social outlet where you'll find that if you don't believe in God, you're not alone. You can join us after the show in the Old City at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria. There'll probably be 20, 25 of us down there after the show.
All right. So we finished with the atheist experience? Mm-hmm. All right. Well, the Council for Secular Humanism. Atheism and agnostics are still silent on large questions and value of meaning. Meaning, the answer, atheism, is really an answer to one question.
Right.
If meaning in life is not obtained from on high, what small m meanings can we work out amongst ourselves? In other words, they're attempting to say, let's build a moral philosophy, and we're not going to start with an assumption that a God is going to punish us in an afterlife.
So there's a lot of questions remaining after you answer the question about whether you believe in God. This particular location here likes to try to at least address those questions. I think we should move as quickly as we can.
All right.
We're getting down to 24.
Talk about the next one.
The Thinking Atheist is one of my personal favorites. Seth is the Thinking Atheist. He used to be a Christian minister. He has videos, podcasts, forums, resources, and editors blogs on refuting the Bible and just general podcasts. He's an ex-radio, Christian radio personality and brings all of his talents to atheism and free thought. It's good. Great site.
Okay, next slide. The infidel guy, and I might mangle his name here.
Yeah, Reginald Findley.
Reginald Findley.
Because it's starting first person. I started listening to him back in the early 2000s, and he was. He has years of atheist call-in shows. He has a huge archive, almost as big as the Atheist Experience that we talked about a little bit earlier. He introduced me to the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, to James Randi, Michael Shermer, and many others. He also had a wife swap episode where he and his wife were swapped out in a fundamentalist family, which was a very interesting show. The Infidel guy, I highly recommend him.
All right. Well, Digital Free Thought Forum, that's Larry's
That's
website.
my site.
There's a lot of great thing there, great quotes from historical people. You got pages there where you can make your own bumper stickers.
Yep. And this, one of the things, if we don't get through all this material that we're going through today, you can go to my website, click on resources, and it'll give you most of this material that we're looking at now.
All right. This next one, Leaving Christianity. I'm not familiar with that one.
It's a Google site. LeavingXChristianity.com/home is the. I'm putting all these at the top so you can get to them. But there are many of resources, and many people will write in there talking about why people leave Christianity, what the most common reasons for a very serious Christian to even think about it, and go into many dialogues on this.
Is it because perhaps when they read the Bible seriously, they come across things they can't reconcile with their morality?
Right.
All right.
And we're going to go through the next three real quick because they're related. The next one is Leaving Mormonism, xmormon.org. It's a real easy to remember tag at the top. Has blogs, news stories, archives, and ex-Mormon contacts in case you want to talk to an ex-Mormon and find out why they may have left the fold. And the next one is Leaving Islam.
Okay.
And then,
which I know for them that can be very difficult because there are members in the Islamic community who are prepared to kill leavers.
That's true. It's particularly bad for Islamists. When a Christian turns atheist, they usually give them a hard time, or they usually receive some bullying at school or a hard time from the neighbors, or maybe even lose a job. But your neighbors don't try to kill you like they do or would in many Muslim countries, and even in many Muslim communities in North America. This is also part of Center for Inquiry, which we mentioned earlier, showing you that they have many valid resources for freethinkers to go to that site. Leaving Scientology is the next one. And it starts off Xenu.net. Of course, Xenu is the name of the intergalactic overlord, which they theoretically are working to overthrow or to worship.
They're trying to get free of, I think.
Get free of.
Yeah.
So this particular area would be good. They have a lot of videos from about people who have left Scientology and can give you a lot of insight into the problems that they had leaving. Next is Positive Atheism.
Well, I'll confess I'm not familiar with that site as well. You're going to have to give me the thumbnail description.
The one thing that I would recommend to this particular one, they discuss the history, ethics, philosophy of atheism to promote liberty, responsibility, and peace of mind. But the one thing that I like to point people to for this particular site is deconversion stories. They have a particular area that after you've gone through the deconversion process, if you'd like to share it with somebody, they have a forum that you can go in. It's very accessible, that you can type in your deconversion story and save it and publish it right there, and read dozens and dozens, maybe even 100 other deconversion stories for people who have gone before you. I think it's a really great resource for people who are struggling leaving religion.
All right. Well, Michael Shermer, he's the founding publisher of Skeptic Magazine, and every month when I get Scientific American, I look forward to reading his articles. You know, he often takes on irrational religious belief, but then sometimes climate skeptics and things like that.
I didn't happen to put his link up there, but just do a search for Skeptic Magazine, and he'll come up, I'm sure. He has an awful lot of information out there for people who are leaving their religion, and it can help.
All right. Atheist United, I'm not familiar with Atheist United either.
I don't go there as much as I used to. Atheist United is a positive atheist community that fosters a supportive environment for its members and its welcoming attitude toward guests. It works to improve the status of atheists in the larger society and of atheism in the public discourse by promoting separation of church and state, educating the public about the philosophy and practices of free thought and humanism, and serving the public good in ways that are exemplary of our values. The next one is a comedy site that I thoroughly enjoyed, and many of my friends have. Mr. Deity.
I've spent many hours at night on that one when I probably should have gotten to bed earlier. There's, man, it must be at least 3 or 4 seasons of them now. And what's nice about this is some nice humor, but they ask profound questions.
They do. Yeah.
They address the absurdities in the Bible.
Why would God leave in things like disease and earthquakes and things when He created the world? It's all very funny and brings a lot of pertinent questions to the fore. What's kind of funny is this lady here, this pretty lady on your right, is Satan.
Now, Lucy.
Lucy, yeah, but she's Lucifer, which in real life is his wife, and this, of course, here is Mr. Deity with the halo around his head and stuff. Very funny. Look it up. You'll yuck a lot, I'm sure. All right. Now we'll turn to YouTube atheist resources now. The first one we mentioned earlier was Richarddawkinsdotnet as a website resource, but he also has a channel on YouTube with a lot of videos on there about evolution, science, free thought, and various related topics. The Galaxy British Book Awards named him the Author of the Year in 2006 for God Delusion, and in 2008 for his TV program, The Genius of Charles Darwin. You can see excerpts of these and others, all of these on his channel on YouTube. All right. Philhellenes.
Another one that I'm not familiar with. You're going to have to tell me about that one.
Philhellenes is one of my favorite. He's tired of not understanding what you are and where you come from, worried that God is watching you take a shower or that you might go to hell. There's only one cure. Learning and understanding are far easier than you think. All you need is curiosity. The truth is beautiful. Read. He also has another saying, religion tells children that they might go to hell and that they must believe. Science tells children that they came from the stars and presents reasoning that they can believe.
Yeah, that's a great contrast there.
And his videos are just full of wonderful analogies and beautiful images and great sayings like that.
All right, well, the next one, Potholder 54, I'm now familiar with in preparing for the show. I spent some time there, and I must say they had some excellent videos about science. Particularly, there were 3 great ones about climate change that addresses many of the promoted misconceptions of the climate, those who would deny the science of climate change.
Yeah. The next one is QualiaSoup. He's a UK artist and secular humanist discussing critical thinking, science, and philosophy. One of his quotes is, "People who don't want you to think are never your friend." That's QualiaSoup. Moving right along, TheraminTrees is QualiaSoup's brother. And he has an awful lot of humanists and secularist information discussing critical science, critical thinking science, morality, and he also takes on the psychology of interpersonal relationships under transactional analysis, which I found very interesting. I have studied that in the past.
All right. LovingDoubt, she's got a deconversion story that I guess was compelling. And is this the one that you said that she's no longer real active?
Right. Can we bring up that?
But there's a nice deconversion story there.
Her channel has been taken down, and I don't know why. Many of her fans have wondered about that. But somebody else has taken some of her, took her deconversion series and put it up on the web. It's about 10 videos about how she came from a very fundamentalist church to Freethought. She's a very sweet, very lovely young girl, and very interesting stuff. I highly recommend it. The next is Evidence 3 is how I pronounce it. It's Evid with 3 NC3 at the top. You can see it. He's got a very well-produced series of why I no longer am a Christian. He takes us step by step through his series of deconversion, well-produced videos, great graphics. He's a young man who's very well-spoken. I couldn't recommend the series more highly.
All right. Well, Ask an Atheist. It's a well-done Freethought call-in show, much like ours, out of Portland, Oregon. We actually got a call from them once when we first started up. Thank you out there.
Yeah. So look up Ask an Atheist. Just run it all together like it is at the top on YouTube, and you'll see some of their videos. They have quite a few archives. They've been doing the show probably longer than we have.
And they do this on Sundays at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Right.
All right.
The next one, ZommGitsChris, which is one name for one girl, and she's Romanian, very easy on the eyes, and very well spoken, and does some very great videos. I couldn't recommend her higher either. She's got a lot of good content out there that's well worth viewing.
She had a particularly good episode where she was debunking intelligent design claims. It was remarkable how someone so apparently young could be so
well spoken
and rigorously knowledgeable on the subject.
True, so true.
All right.
The next one, I guess I better take. This is my channel, Doubter5 on YouTube. I have a series of videos that I did 6 years ago now called Atheism 101, which answered the basic questions of atheism to people who weren't familiar with it. Since then, I've done an awful lot of animated videos on free thought topics that I hope you'll go to and enjoy.
All right, AtheismTV, I'm not familiar with this one. You're going to have to tell me.
Well, they collect videos on the topic of atheism and put them on the channel. They're not all put up by the people who do Atheism TV, but it's a kind of a collection of a place to go for a single source of a lot of different atheism videos.
All right. Well, Dark Matter 2525. I've spent some time there. He's got a characteristic animation style where you can find Jehovah and his angels confronting some of the trials and tribulations of guiding humanity.
That's so true. And they're very funny, and he's got an awful lot of them. It's quite a big collection there, and you'll enjoy them, I'm sure. NonStampCollector also uses animated cartoons depicting the problems of religion. I can't say much more about it. He's very good at what he does as well, so give them a shot. We're moving kind of quick because we only have about 7 minutes to the show.
But we encourage people to call in. We have time for a good conversation yet.
Another is Deconverts, another person who's put his deconversion series on the air in a series of videos on YouTube. Well done, well documented, recommend it.
Living Dinosaur, I'm not familiar with that.
Living Dinosaur, I've never seen any videos that have been quite so highly produced. He has, I mean, you could watch one video and probably see 300 images because they're constantly moving and reinforcing the points that he's making. It's just something you'll have to go see at least one because they're quite something to view. I'm at a loss for words on that one.
All right. I like the little quote here. It's a crying shame that there are so many people out there that let their theism interfere with their ability to perceive the beauty of the natural world.
He is well spoken. All the video animation and movement and pictures that he puts on there kind of does a little bit detract from the words that he says, but even the words are, I mean, if he didn't have the video, his words would be well worth listening to. And FFreeThinker, the next one, I have watched him for a long, long time. He has a lot of videos out there that make an awful lot of good sense, well produced, well done. Here's a quote from him. He quotes Carl Sagan in one of his videos. If we long to believe that the stars rise and set for us, that we are the reason there is a universe, where does science do us a disservice in deflating our conceits? For me, it is far better to grasp the universe as it really is than to persist in delusion, however satisfying and reassuring, which kind of goes in with that caller said earlier.
Yeah. So, Discovering Religion, once again, I've not visited this one.
Discovering Religion, just type it in all together and you'll reach his channel. It's an original documentary-style series on YouTube that explores a variety of topics within the framework of religion, science, philosophy, history, and politics. The aim of this series is to objectively examine the fallacies propagated by religious doctrine through an entertaining, educational, and thought-provoking medium. It's a well-done series.
All right. And you've got Leaving Islam again?
I don't have a specific YouTuber site for Islam, but I do. But if you'll do a search for, quote, Leaving Islam, you will find an abundance. There's quite a few on there. I couldn't single one particular one out. They just seem to be scattered all over the place. But be warned, many of the people who are giving reasons for Muslims to leave Islam want them to turn around and join Christianity. So, the little caveat there.
All right. MrAtheistChristian, the message of Christ is not about Christianity, it's Christ.
Right.
Well, that seems a little, that needs some amplification. Help me on that.
It talks about living a good Christian life without religion and or belief in the supernatural. I hear more and more about this particular view in society today. It says, like our earlier caller was saying, he said a lot of good stuff. He wanted us to treat each other well. It's a great message, but he's not the only one who said it. We don't have to make a religion out of him saying it. There's a lot of good things out there. The Bible has some good things in it. The Quran has some good things in it. Shakespeare has some good things in it. Let's find the good things and not worry about the source.
Let's be quick
but
here.
Be sure to throw away the bad stuff.
All right, you speak.
Welcome to Freethought Forum. May we have a name or nickname?
Yes, it's James.
Hello, James.
Please give us a short question or comment. We've got less than 3 minutes left that we can talk to you.
All right. Yeah, I was catch your show there. I mean, it's first time. I was just wondering, since obviously you're atheist, the Christian belief's been going on for over 2,000 years. Back in the old days, when they used to use the Christians to feed the lions and make human torches out of them to light them up at nighttime so they could see their games.
You mean before Rome took Christianity?
Yeah, Roman times, before Roman was defeated.
No, before Rome took Christianity on as their own religion.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Before then. But the fact was, though, that they were all given an opportunity to denounce the faith, to save their life. And if it was to be a lie, would not a man, woman, or child being tortured, would they not, or if you put yourself in that situation, would you not denounce that the Lord was not real to save your life?
Well, what about the people who flew the planes into the building in 9/11? They thought that their faith was worth dying for. Was their faith correct?
No, it's not.
Okay, police all the time, when they have a murder on their hands, they'll a lot of times put the word out that they're looking for the killer. A lot of people will call and say, I'm the killer. But they have a false confession. They're risking death for a lie.
Yeah, why do people do that?
My opinion is that they are psychotic and they just are drawing attention.
Yeah, but your people that you're talking about weren't.
No, they're not, because the faith is millions strong and it's over 2,000 years old.
Okay, we're going to have to go, but thanks for making your point. I think we kind of answered the point. We'll have to let it go at that. We're running out of time.
Yeah, thanks for calling, James. We'll be here next week when we've got a little more time. Call in earlier.
Thank you.
All right.
The last one I'd like to put up, and I think is very important, AronRa. We've got to get him up there before. Well, there's several more, but I'd like to get him up there. YouTube, raising awareness on the science of climate. I can't read it.
Climate change.
A very thorough explanation and presentation of evolutionary theory. He is doing his part to raise awareness of science and the growing social political opposition to it.
And I've seen him as a guest on Atheist Experience as well.
He's trained biologist.
All right. And
CDK, if we want to put him up there real quick, he's one of my favorites. I've been following him for years and years and years. I just recommend you go to him. All right, we're ready for the end?
Okay. You got the first line.
Okay, it's time to start wrapping up. Get out your pen and paper, and we'll give you some notes. Go ahead.
This has been Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee.
Please send us some feedback. You can leave a voicemail at 865-272-9060. That will take your message down for us. Or you can email us at freethoughtforum@yahoo.com.
You can see this show on Tuesdays from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on this Knoxville station, or at 2200 hours Universal Time, worldwide at ctvknox.org. Better say goodbye to our viewers.
Bye, viewers.
Thank you.